Good afternoon, everyone. And those who are sitting in the back benches, there'll be a pop quiz for you guys. So if you want to come up in front, please do. Welcome to the summit. My name is Vidya Falke. I'm the Chief Innovation and Cloud Officer at MetricStream. Been there quite some time. Sharing the stage will be Shantanu Mane in the second half of this conversation, when we're going to talk about how Amazon Web Services, AWS, is helping the GRC Cloud journey and the way forward and future for MetricStream. So what I wanted to do is just spend few minutes on giving a little bit of context of GRC Cloud. Then I'll delve into future of GRC and how AWS and GRC together is moving forward. And cloud is mainstream. I think it should not be a unknown term for any one of you in this room, whether you are in business, IT, security, risk compliance, and so on and so forth. What has happened is software as a service has become really empowered onto cloud. This graphic clearly illustrates that third of the world was on cloud a few years ago, and now pretty soon more than half will be using public cloud in some shape or form. And clearly we picked and chosen the leader, Amazon, to be our partner in that journey. So, but wait, what has happened, right? When you start thinking about cloud, we have modernized some things already. What people have done, and I'm not talking about our competition, I'm talking broadly in the cloud space, when software is being provisioned, in past, people have talked about or thought about the multi-tenant architecture, and which by itself, what it did is multiple customers, users would share resources in the cloud. Now, if you're sharing resources, think about the problems that can have, what we call as a noisy neighbor problem. Somebody's using some resources highly, somebody else gets starved and is not able to use it. Of course, security is a problem because now you're commingling data across customers and entities. And then what also happens is you need to keep up pace. I mean, if the cloud vendor wants to move to a next version, everybody has to move to the next version and be in lockstep. So when we were envisioning cloud or MetricStream Cloud, the way we thought about it is to modernize it, at least on that front. And we came up with a concept of multi-instance, and MetricStream GRC fundamentally is multi-instance. What that means is each and every customer has their full stack of data, applications, and systems, and that allows every customer to exist independent from the other one. And at the same time, then you get the benefits of data segregation, you get performance capabilities as required by your business, and finally, you can move at your own pace, right? You don't have to worry about cloud vendor doing an upgrade and interfering with your thinking and thought process. So building that on a little bit next details, so that kind of a modern cloud essentially provides you agility in terms of picking on the journey for your business. And also at the same time, it allows you all kinds of fine-tuned configurability and the scope of changes that you want for your organization. So net-net, you are able to move your GRC, risk and compliance journey at your pace, but at the same time, you are doing it in an extremely cost-effective manner and are managing your total cost of ownership. So just another way to look at the same information, the cloud promise is essentially about speed and agility at lower cost and having all the capabilities available as you move forward with your GRC journeys. And then with a modern cloud that is extremely available today. These are the services and capabilities that you get. Some of you are on MetricStream Cloud, some are you're thinking about it, so this is all you get right off the box. So if you want to layer your thinking, I'll just run through the graphic. What you need to think about is starting at the core of a GRC cloud. It's really a platform way of thinking about things. You add on all the core capabilities of management, expansibility, and so on and so forth. Think about now your risk program, your audit program, SOX, and third party, and so on and so forth. So that's a layered approach that you built on. But the fundamental foundation you start is the GRC Cloud and GRC platform, which is where your taxonomy resides. And then all the other heavy lifting in terms of moving through the provisioning in the cloud, through the configuration, change management, all of that is taken care of by MetricStream and MetricStream Cloud. So as a leader of GRC or as a champion of GRC in your organization, these are the heavy lifting you don't have to do, and it's pretty much done at scale and at cloud scale, depending upon your GRC use cases. And a little bit more details on, now if you think about multi-cloud or multi-instance strategy, MetricStream at the foundation is using AWS predominantly. However, we have other cloud vendors as well. But if you think about it in terms of operating this at scale, there are two capabilities that are foundational in MetricStream Cloud. One is called the Cloud Control Plane, which essentially allows us to orchestrate these applications across hundreds and hundreds of our customers, thousands, and in fact, reaching millions of end users in MetricStream GRC Cloud. In fact, we just crossed the million mark a few months ago. And these are all GRC professionals. And then the control plane takes care of the layers of security that is needed, that takes care of provisioning, performance, and so on and so forth, so that every customer is meeting or exceeding their SLAs as they need for the GRC journey. The second part is about cloud insights, right? The power of cloud is not just about offloading your work somewhere else, but then having that assurance that somebody is watching over you. What Cloud Insights in MetricStream does, it's actually looking at use cases, looking at if end users are struggling in some parts of the application, and our systems are actually collecting that information in the back end so that we can fine-tune the applications. You don't need to worry about raising your hand and saying, I'm having trouble in this area or this part of the application. I mean, that is fundamentally the power of any kind of cloud. But at MetricStream GRC Cloud, we have essentially enabled Cloud Insights for all of our customers. So that's also the power of scale that you get by using MetricStream Cloud. So that's kind of table stakes. These are things already working. MetricStream Cloud has been in operation a little over 4 years now. I've been running this. If I reflect back 4 years ago, perhaps 10% of our customers were using cloud. Today, 90% are on MetricStream Cloud. So it is here to stay. It's mainstream. So where do we go from here? Right? So the way to think about it, again, sorry about too much animation. Fundamentally, you start with this internal kernel. You think about your GRC use cases, from compliance to IT security and so on and so forth. But you start using the cloud essentially to think about all the layering that starts coming in. This morning, I talked about robotic process automation, AI, and so on and so forth. But even the layers of how we want to engage with GRC, how we want the end user to engage with GRC. If you are fundamentally in MetricStream Cloud, all those bells and whistles and APIs, we have already enabled it and made it ready. As and when we build in this roadmap into MetricStream, our customers will start getting it seamlessly, and pretty effortlessly as we evolve and push these capabilities forward. So the cloud is the power engine and power tool behind it. So going from a little bit about the future, I just want to touch upon, what does Amazon really bring to us, right? In one of the slides you saw, AWS is kind of the foundation layer. Some of you might think it's just the infrastructure. I mean, our journey with AWS is much, much more than that. Infrastructure is given. A lot of IT organizations are already doing it. S3 buckets, well-known, EC2 instances, et cetera. But what we really leverage Amazon, AWS, and I'll let Shantanu talk in a little bit more details about it, is to really enable the elasticity of cloud, which is what is really needed. So scale up and scale down as needed for your application, your GRC use cases. In terms of security controls, in terms of just the ability to configure things at scale. Again, remember, millions of users, our operations really need to work at that level of the game, and AWS, who has done operations many times over, has definitely helped us improve our processes as well as controls going forward. So with that, I would like to hand it over to Shantanu. Amazon Web Services, as you know, is a $31 billion company. A lot more at play, and I'll come back towards the end on specifically what are the key capabilities we are immediately using with AWS. But I thought it would be a good primer to get a feel for what AWS does, because at some level, you could think about putting GRC use cases in AWS, but your organization is perhaps thinking of using other applications as well. So that would be a good place to start with connecting those dots and leveraging AWS in those spaces as well. Welcome, Shantanu.
Thanks, Vidya. Hello, everyone. My name is Shantanu. I manage the partnership with MetricStream. Just wanted to know, are you aware of AWS? Any of you are AWS customers? Awesome. Yeah, we met. Yeah. OK, so I'm just going to talk for some time about what AWS is, what is the difference AWS has with other cloud service providers, and oops, sorry. So what is it that sets AWS apart? As Vidya mentioned, we are a $31 billion run rate company, growing 41% was the growth rate in Q1 of 2019. So there are 7 things which we have identified which are really different. The first is security. I'm going to talk a little bit more on that. The second is service breadth and depth. We have a variety of features, number of features we have, the services we have, the innovation we have. We have experience. We've been around for the longest time. We started in 2006. We have more than 1 million active customers today. I'll talk about global footprint, machine learning, which Vidya touched upon. That's something which is of great interest. It's kind of the future. I'll talk a little bit about the ecosystem. And then we are the leader in this space. If you look at the Gartner's Magic Quadrant for infrastructure service providers, we are at the top end there. So I'll talk a little bit about security. So what does security really mean? So one of the features we have in the AWS cloud is fine-grained security control. So what does this mean for you as a customer? So if you really want to say that a particular user should be able to open a database instance, let's say between Monday to Friday only, from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m., and then you can specify an instance which he can open, and you also define the IOPS, you can do that. And AWS is the only cloud provider which allows you to do this. We have taken, security is like a top priority for us, and the way it's built natively grounds up. We have more security features, more compliance certifications, accreditations than any other cloud service provider. And the way we approach security is we have a shared responsibility model. We are responsible for the physical security of the data centers, the host operating system, and the virtualization layer. And our customers or our partners, they are responsible for the security of the applications. So that's how we approach security. Breadth and depth of services. This is a really busy slide. So I just wanted to put this up there to show you that we have a lot of features and functionalities. And going a little bit more here, this is the history of innovation. So we started in 2006, and in 2009, we had 48 new features and services which were introduced. And our rate of innovation and the rate at which we are introducing new features and services is very high, and the gap between us and our competitors is actually increasing. If you look at the number of features and services we introduced in 2018, it's 1,957. That's pretty staggering, and even for us in AWS to keep track of what's coming, it's kind of a Herculean task. And sometimes, customers ask us, hey, why do you have so many features and services? But the reason we do that is that's one of the reasons why customers really love us. And the way it works in the cloud is we have all these innovations coming up. So for customers who are not using those services, they don't have to use them. They don't have to pay for it. If you're using them, well, the new features are simply pushed out to you. So it's all what the customers really want. The third thing is operational reliability. So as I mentioned, we were the first company to start off with cloud service providers. And our CEO, Andy Jassy, he's made this statement. It kind of resonates really well. There's no compression algorithm for experience. That's what Andy Jassy says. So what it means is like we have so much of experience. We have so many workloads which are running on AWS. It's kind of a maturity model. So we have those many customers. We have gone through that experiences of running to that scale. So we have learned with experience. So that's what we mean. And we are like almost fanatical about performance. So even before we launched our first service, our engineers were really looking at how can we make this service more available, because we have this concept of availability zones, which I'll talk about a little bit more. And our engineers are relentless in making sure that our systems are fault tolerant. And you see availability zones, I'll come to this a little later, but they're isolated on geographical lines. In fact, our reliability is so good, it helps us to reduce costs. In fact, we've reduced our cost 72 times since 2006, which we launched. So we really take great pride in that, and we really count the number of times we have reduced the cost. And all this is, one of the reasons is like operationally, we are really stable and reliable. The next is global footprint. So right now, we have 21 regions in the world, and we have what we call as 64 availability zones. So availability zones are discrete, distant data centers. They have their own redundant supply, own redundant power. So we are present across the world. So you see that, and we have 4 more regions which we've announced. One is in the UAE, in Bahrain, South Africa, Italy, and Indonesia. Apart from that, we also have point of presence, which is the 169 edge locations and 11 regional edge caches. So these are in 69 cities in 30 countries. So what does this mean for you? So if you want to deploy your application at a location which is close to your customers, then they won't have issues of latency. So it can help our customers to quickly scale globally in minutes. It's really easy to do it on the cloud. I mean, just imagine if you had to open data centers in every market where you're operating. So that's one of the key benefits of cloud, and we have the most number of regions and availability zones than any other cloud service provider. A little bit about high availability. So high availability is really important for customers. So as I mentioned, we have a concept of a region and an availability zone. So let's say Ohio is one of the regions. Within a region, we have multiple data centers. So let's say in this particular diagram, you can see there are 3 data centers. So each of these data centers are physically separate locations, and they are separated by tens of hundreds of miles. So the way it works is within Ohio, let's say we have 3 data centers, they're probably separated by 100 miles each. And what this means is that first is they're physically isolated. So in case of a natural disaster like a flood, all the data centers are at a distant location, so your data remains intact. And why we don't have it beyond, let's say, a distance of 100 miles? You want to make sure that your data is available quickly to you. Because in case of something going down, one of the physical data centers going down, the data has to be replicated instantaneously. There can't be latency. So it's kind of a sweet spot. That's why we have this concept of availability zones. It makes the architecture really robust and reliable. And the difference is like if our customers were to do this, it's going to cost them a lot of money because it's going to cost twice the amount which it would cost them to create their own data center. Because we have this economies of scale, we have built core competency on doing this, we are able to do it at a lower cost. In fact, Dow Jones closed 2 of their data centers, they moved to AWS, they've saved $100 million. So that's what it is. Okay, now we come to machine learning. So machine learning is the new hot topic, and we heard in the morning, Vidya spoke about bots, he spoke about natural language. So we have a number of services for application developers. So we have things like SageMaker, which is a machine learning service. We have Poly, which converts text into MP3 files. I'm not a technical person, but I've personally used Poly. I just went to the AWS console, I copied the text, and then it converted to an MP3 file. Similarly, we have recognition, which is for face. Then we have Lex, which is the natural language understanding, which Vidya spoke about in the morning. So we have all these services. So what these help to do is for developers, if they want to create new apps, which can see, which can hear, all these things which are the latest, which customers really want, they can utilize any of these services. And then for scientists who are really deep into machine learning, we have AMIs, or Amazon Machine Images. So these give really high performance, and you can use any of these models which are available. So for example, TensorFlow, some of you may be aware of, it's one of the most popular machine learning models. So 85% of the workloads on TensorFlow actually run on AWS. So for scientists, the AMIs are really good, very powerful machine images. You can use your own learning models there. And 81% of the deep learning projects today out there in the world actually run on AWS. And we have some of these customers. These are public reference customers for us. These are running deep machine learning projects on AWS. Oops. The other important thing is we have a really big ecosystem. So we have technology partners. For example, MetricStream is an advanced partner for us. We work really closely with them. We also have a number of system integration partners. So what it means for customers is if they want to go ahead with the AWS implementation, there's a lot of technical expertise out there. You can work with any of them. We also have a very robust marketplace, the AWS marketplace. It has about 1,400 software listings there. 4,800, I think, is the latest count. 1,400 ISVs have software products listed on the marketplace. You can go and buy any of these third-party software products. And we have 230,000 active customers on the marketplace. So it's something which is really popular. It's getting more and more popular. We have categories of products, including operating systems, networking products, storage, so on and so forth. And so we have the who's who of the industry. We work with a lot of enterprise companies. If you look at financial services, Capital One, Intuit, Barclays, HSBC of some of our customers. In fact, the CIO of Capital One's made a statement 2 years back at our reInvent, which is our biggest conference for customers. He actually said that the data in the AWS data center is more secure than in their own data centers, which is a big thing for a big company, big bank like Capital One. If you look at oil and gas, we have Shell, HP, we have Hess, Halliburton. If you look at manufacturing, we have companies like Schneider, Philips, Siemens. If you look at media and entertainment, Netflix, Disney, Hulu, they're all running on AWS. If you look at hospitality, we have Expedia, Singapore Air, Korean Air, Hilton Hotels, all of them running on AWS. So we have a large number of enterprise customers running on AWS. And of course, we have a lot of startups, a lot of government companies also running on AWS. So this just tells you that any kind of workload runs on AWS today. All these people are using AWS in a very, very meaningful way. And a lot of them have gone all in on AWS. It just gives you an idea of what the adoption is across the industry. With that, I just want to hand it over back to Vidya, and I'll be here for questions. So thank you.
How about a round of applause for Shantanu? Thank you. In fact, I learned a few things, and I've been working with them for a little over 4 years. So thanks, Shantanu. But just to contextualize this back into what MetricStream is doing in GRC, right? So we saw a laundry list of services available from AWS. So I listed 5 of them. These are the kind of things MetricStream R&D looks at and integrates with, so that you saw some of the demos earlier this morning or in the Innovation Hub. We are using SageMaker. We are using DeepLens. Some people are exploring with Mechanical Turk. But what we do is we use these services to enable some of the GRC use cases so that your IT and your end users don't have to worry about it. But the fundamental premise here is that what we are enabling few things in MetricStream GRC Cloud in AWS to the extent possible. But if you guys have already made investment in AWS and using some other services, integrating all of that just becomes extremely easy. I'll give you a very simple example. If you're already using AWS for some other areas, some other non-GRC use cases, what happens is your IT security has already done all the vetting. They have passed or cleared AWS to be used. And then putting those integrations together is much less and much less onerous task than if you had to start all over again. So keep that in mind when you are thinking about your GRC journey or use cases going forward. So with that, I hope you enjoyed the session, learned a little bit about MetricStream, GRC Cloud, and AWS and how we are working together. AWS is also at the Innovation Hub at the partner out there. You can have any more questions. So questions at this point? Yes, sir. Oh, so that's a good point, right? So you saw that map in the geographic map. We operate out of 3 data centers in US, 3 in Europe, and 2 in Asia Pac. Remember the original message about containerization? Every customer has this full stack. So all the US customers are always in US data centers, all European in Europe. And that's the obvious segregation. But if there is some specific requirements, we had certain, I guess, not a federal agency, it's certain agency who's a US agency but wanted to be in Europe, that's easy. I mean, it's literally a matter of click and moving them over. So yeah, that's what that containers really makes it possible, that you can be anywhere. And typically they are driven by regulatory reasons and performance reasons. There's no reason to run a system in Europe if all the end users are sitting here in US. So yeah, of course, that's how we operate. Yes, sir. Very good question. So the control plane essentially enables us to do patching at scale. So the end business users don't have to even worry about it. Clearly, security and Sev1 security, those kind of software level 1 critical patches are automatically deployed. When it comes to deploying and patching your applications and platform and maybe MetricStream applications, there it's a question of trade-off of thinking about, are these patches going to impact the end users on how they're using the application? But you have full control as an end customer to decide when to actually bring them into your fold. Anything else? All right. Yes, please go ahead. So yes, we have a read-only access because a lot of our integrations are leveraging things like Tableau for visualization, et cetera. So that's one of the options that's available. So we dovetail on Amazon's VPC, which is the Virtual Private Connect, to provide a secure layer to connect to backend as a read-only mechanism. And yeah, I mean, it's our customers are looking for ways to leverage the data that's in the system, and given that it's all containerized for every customer, each customer can have that flexibility of having that or not having that. All right, so thank you. Have a great rest of the day today as well as tomorrow. And thanks from me and Shantanu. And we are here for any questions.